Welcome, everybody, to District Talk. I'm your host, Chad, with District Home Loans. And this week, we have Kevin Lopez with Wycart Realty.
Hello, how are you?
Thanks for coming by today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So this is your first time that we've had you on, so it's really exciting to have you. I thought we would start out today with just kind of getting to know a little bit about you and your history and background in real estate, and then kind of get into our topic, which is misconceptions in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess to kick it off, I am actually a second generation realtor. So
Okay.
my mom is a realtor in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's something that she's been doing for, I think, around 12 years now.
Wow.
And, being the son of a realtor, I originally wanted nothing to do with it in the slightest. Yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to do what my mom's doing. But, as time went on, I started education. So that's what I wanted to do originally. I studied education. But I felt that I wouldn't have made the impact that I wanted to make on families directly, or at least that there was a lot of kind of red tape and restrictions on what I could or couldn't do to help somebody. So I went looking for something else, and she goes, well, why don't you come work for me down here in North Carolina? And I went and I looked. I loved the work that she did. I mean, I felt like she really made an impact on the families that she talked to and that she helped, communities that were underserved in North Carolina especially. So that was important to me.
Yeah.
To be able to have that.
Well,
direct connection.
That's the thing that a lot of folks in real estate have, is that they take a lot of pride in what they do, because you're basically helping somebody. You're helping somebody make the biggest purchase of their life, but you're also helping somebody, make what's going to be the purchase that is going to lead to memories, like they're going to wake up to Christmas mornings, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I mean, just things of that. It's really a kind of a big deal to be able to help somebody purchase their home.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. I mean, you're right. It's something that you stay in for a long time. It's something that people keep forever. Even if they move, some people choose to keep it anyway, just for the memory or for rental or et cetera.
Yeah.
So that was something that drew me to real estate originally. I've also always been a very ambitious person, I think. So
Okay.
I was 20 or 21 years old when I decided very suddenly, after listening to like the Bigger Pockets podcast and like a lot of those investor things, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go buy a house. And I went out to Cumberland, Maryland, thinking that like I was going to get some duplex and it was going to work out.
Yeah.
And I had a realtor that ended up dropping out of the business while I was working with them.
Oh, no.
And I felt like, wow, I really don't understand how these things work at all.
Yeah.
And I wish I had somebody that could teach me to do it. And so having that original interest and kind of background in education, I felt like, well, maybe that is something that I could do. So I didn't end up getting it, obviously, being very uncoached, I think. I went through it twice before deciding, you know what? Maybe if I get a real estate license, I'll understand it better, like just for myself. And then after seeing kind of what other people did for their clients and how much of a smooth process it could be, I decided that was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah. So you feel like if you had a realtor that was more engaged and probably a little bit better, you would actually be a homeowner in Cumberland, Maryland. Which is way out there.
Yeah, I mean, he probably would have told me not to go to Cumberland in the first place, if he was really good. But it's like they put me with a lender and they were like, "Here's what you qualify for," and I was like, "Oh, great." Is that like a lot or is that a little? I don't know what that means really.
Yeah.
So having somebody that can kind of explain those things, I think, is important.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's not something that you get taught in schools, or if you're somebody that immigrates to the country, they don't tell you when you get to the border to Ellis Island, like, by the way, just so you know, these are all of the programs that you're eligible for. So you have no idea. I mean, nobody tells you this except for somebody that knows. So I wanted to be somebody that knows and that could help people get things that they didn't realize that they could achieve.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. So would you say then that first-time home buyers might be your, like, kind of, is that who you like to work with? Or, I mean, obviously you want to work with anybody you can work with, right? But do you have a particular group of folks that you enjoy working with?
I would say anybody with a difficult situation. I think
Oh,
I'm
okay.
I'm a
Okay.
person that enjoys a challenge. I've always been pretty competitive,
Yeah.
and we had a seller last year where she was with a different broker. She had listed her home for 4 months, and it was right across the line from Kensington, so it was Silver Spring, but it was like Kensington adjacent.
Okay.
I mean, you could drive like 5 minutes and see the temple of the Mormon temple, like
Yeah.
if you know where that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Right off of
The Disneyland
495.
of Maryland.
Yeah, pretty much. And so she was in a great location. It was in an infill lot, but it had a ton of really good amenities to it. And she was on the market for 4 months and hadn't received a single offer.
Wow.
I mean, it was shocking to me. I asked her the first and the second time that we met, I was like, so you didn't get a single offer? She goes, no. And I asked her, why do you think that is? And by this point, she had already run out of her, the term that she had said with the previous realtor. And there were some big group that operated in the area. I mean, they were big. They had a lot of business. And so she thought that she was in good hands. And she said that she heard from this guy maybe once every 3 or 4 weeks. It didn't work out for her.
Wow.
It was something where I felt like she was really done a disservice
Yeah.
by somebody that was just trying to get a commission. And, we came in, my partner and I, and we, it's in the Google review, but like we picked up paintbrushes ourselves and tried to touch up some of the areas.
Okay.
We had contractors come in, replace,
Yeah.
some of the real eyesores that were in there.
Yeah.
And within the first weekend, so by day 4, we had 3 offers. We accepted one that was over list price, $20K over. I can say that now because it closed last year. But
That's amazing. $20,000.
yeah, exactly.
Over list.
Yeah, and it was something that she didn't think that she could get because of her experience.
Just
with
by
this
doing a
other
couple things that the other realtor didn't think of.
exactly, and it was something where I think if they had directed a lot of energy towards it, it would have been a no-brainer how quickly it could have gone. But it's just you have to choose the people that you work with very carefully.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. So okay, so you like a good challenge.
I like a challenge.
Okay. All right, you like a good challenge. You're a problem solver. Essentially.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
All right. So sounds good. Well, speaking of problem solving, kind of our topic today are just general misconceptions that people have in real estate. So meaning things that like people don't realize, right? And one thing that you brought up earlier that I thought was pretty interesting, and that's something that I don't really know a whole lot about, is the limited service brokerages.
Yeah.
And I guess they're also called flat fee service brokerages. So tell us what that is and what it means to a seller.
Yeah, absolutely. So when somebody advertises themselves as a flat fee service or a limited service brokerage, I think usually their sales pitch is something along the lines of, well, we'll save you money. You don't have to pay all this money in realtor fees, and you don't have to do anything to your house, and it's going to be easy, and it's going to be fast, and you'll pay so little, and you'll get your house for whatever you decide. But I mean, that's just not the reality of what happens. They don't get paid on results. They get paid on whether you choose them or not. And when somebody doesn't get paid on the results of what they do, I think that is a big red flag.
Yeah.
If they don't have to be successful to make their money, I think you should consider where they really make it.
Yeah.
We had a home last year that we were the selling agents, and it was listed by a limited service brokerage. And
Prior to you becoming the seller's agent.
No. We were the selling, so buyer's agent.
The buyer's
in this
agent.
case. So
Okay.
the buyer was our
Okay.
client. We were looking around.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, I hit the mic.
That's okay.
Yeah, so we were the buyer's agents. We were looking around. We had competed a couple of times in multiple offers. I mean, probably as well as I do that there is not a lot of inventory here. Inventory is tight. There are a lot of people that are still looking. The DMV is an incredibly desirable area. So we started looking off market or in for sale by owners or things that were still in the MLS but potentially had some more days on market. And we came across one that was listed by a limited service brokerage. And, it's not like they specify anywhere in the listing or the MLS report what exactly it is that they do. So we went, and the owner was hosting the MLS himself. or he was hosting the open house himself.
Okay.
Pretty much the only thing that they did was put it in the MLS. The disclosures that he had were 3 forms that were all wrong.
Oh, no.
One of them was over 20 years old, the form.
Oh, no.
If you're familiar with GCAR or MAR, you'll know that once or twice a year, depending on them, on their schedule, they will change the forms.
Yeah.
So pretty much every year there are going to be changes. So to have a 20-year-old form is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we saw the property. It made sense for our buyers. And we talked to the gentleman. We said, should we communicate with you or with the agent? Agent is not reachable under any circumstances. And
because they're just getting paid a flat fee just to say, we're going to list this for you.
Exactly. Just to
but
put it
you're
in
doing
the
everything else.
Yeah, everything else.
Wow.
And so he filled out the disclosures himself. The average person.
Nobody knows how to do that.
Nobody knows how to do that.
You know how thick a contract is.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Okay.
The sales contract alone can be, 35, 40 pages, depending on all the different addendums and et cetera.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that he had was about 15 pages. So, half or less of what it should have been.
Oh my gosh.
And everything was wrong. I mean, we had to provide him with the forms because he couldn't get in contact with his own quote-unquote agent.
Yeah.
Like, I tried to call him, and he wouldn't answer, and it was some automated number. I reached out to him on LinkedIn. This is how desperate we were to get some sort of answer. We had to reach out on LinkedIn. And he goes, sort of with an attitude, this is a limited service brokerage. We don't provide any representation. We don't, provide any detail about this and that. All that we do is provide the forms and list it on the MLS. And I tell him, right, but if every form that you provided is incorrect and completely unusable, what is your liability? That, as I'm sure you might imagine, didn't get me anywhere. So, we basically had to do both sides of the transaction.
Wow.
And this poor gentleman didn't have any representation.
And lucky for that guy, because you could have been...
we could have...
You could have really... you could have taken advantage of the seller. I'm sure you know the contract like the back of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that you could have negotiated probably quite a bit from this guy.
Yeah.
And you probably could have, because you're looking out for your buyer. You're not looking out for the seller.
Yeah, we don't have any, responsibility to him other than honesty, transparency, and fairness.
Sure.
And so for the sake of fairness, obviously we gave him a good deal. We worked with our sellers and kind of came to a good agreement, but he was completely unrepresented. And I remember trying to explain some of these things to him, and I think it was like the second or third meeting that we had. And, he said for himself, he was like, if I had known that it was going to be this much work to do it pretty much everything myself, I wouldn't have done it.
He would have.
Yeah, he's like, I want you guys to list, he had some other condo. This was like his home originally. He moved somewhere else. And he goes, when I list my condo, I want to talk to you guys because this was just so much more headache than I really expected it to be.
Yeah.
And you have to feel bad for people that are just get really screwed out of these deals.
Yeah, so basically the bottom line is working with a limited service brokerage or a flat fee service brokerage, basically you're not going to get much help in regards to selling the home, in regard to having somebody that's on your side to negotiate for you. Because like I said, there's going to be things that come up. You've been in this business now for several years. You, I'm sure, are probably an excellent negotiator, right?
I'm pretty good,
right? So so whether it's a home inspection, an appraisal, there's lots of things that come up after the contract that there's opportunity to negotiate, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And your buyer was probably pretty fortunate that they had you and that their seller had nobody. Yeah. Because there was nobody there to support them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so actually I think it was 2 days. Today's the 4th?
Today's the 4th, yeah.
Yeah, so 2 days ago was the anniversary for my sellers. And for the buyers. And they've been in there for a little while now, and they invited me over to see some of the touches that they've made. So I want to bring them a gift. But I mean, sincerely, I think that somebody that isn't represented in that case, like you're negotiating against a professional.
Yeah.
You can say, oh, well, I can do the negotiations myself. Right. But are you going to beat me?
Right. Yeah.
If I have to.
Somebody that's doing this on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I mean, I had to explain to him what was legally required versus what is an option.
Oh, wow.
And so when it comes to things like radon inspections in Montgomery County, like that is a county regulation. That's not per state.
Yeah.
You have to have a radon inspection. You have to have, wood destroying insects for, for obvious reasons. But Montgomery County mandates it. That's not really a negotiable unless you sign a whole bunch of different addendums to say that you just don't care. But we have to tell him first that things are required and that he doesn't get to negotiate them. And then we tell him, on the other hand, on the items that are negotiable, yes, it's negotiable, but again, you're negotiating with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck, right? When you don't know the rules, how can you expect to win?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to, I guess, our next point, or our next topic for misconceptions, is kind of what leads to deferred maintenance. So deferred maintenance, meaning somebody that's trying to sell their home and getting top dollar for it, right? After making no improvements to it.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about deferred maintenance and what that means as far as for the seller.
Yeah, so there was a fantastic article. I can't remember who it was from. I don't believe it was the National Association of Realtors, but it could have been. But it talked about some of the growing trends in this market and sort of a generational divide, where a lot of people that were, in the boomer generation compared to people that were in the millennial or Gen Z generation. A lot of the boomers or older Gen X that bought their homes believed that kind of they would be there forever. This was the forever home. And eventually they reach a point where either it's too large or it just doesn't make sense for them anymore. Things happen in life where you need to move eventually. But they don't conduct a lot of the maintenance that they should. They don't really check on the filters for the HVAC units, or they don't replace the water heater, and these things are 20 years old, or they don't replace the roof and it's 25 years old. And I mean, one thing that's important to note is that insurance requirements have changed a lot. Yeah. So, when we have conversations with our insurance representatives, roofs that originally were marketed as, 50-year warranty guarantee, it doesn't matter what the builder guarantees. I mean, insurance companies will only cover it up to about 20 years or sometimes even 15.
Yeah.
And so it could be a 50-year warranty, but if it's 17 years old, insurance is either charging you a premium or just not covering it.
Yeah.
So when you don't replace the roof and you don't replace all these things, there's an expectation among boomers of, that are trying to sell without doing too much maintenance themselves of, well, it's a great house. It's never given me problems. And what we're finding is a lot of the younger buyers are saying, right, but if we can't get a proper loan because of insurance, it doesn't matter. And so there are a lot of people that have deferred maintenance that they should have been conducting over the years of their ownership to either the end where suddenly it becomes this large bill that they just can't afford, or deferring it even just to say that the buyer will have to do all of these things. And those houses are sitting on the market where it's not desirable to a buyer that is buying either their first home or maybe a second, or trading up from what could have been a condominium or a townhome into a single family, and finding that it's just a lot of work for what in their mind should be already a fully functioning, stable home. And I understand that a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to deferred maintenance, then obviously your things like, you're going to have your HVAC units, the roof, water heaters, those are pretty big, more so probably like utility based options. But what about like things like, granite or quartz countertops, or like the cabinet selection that you have, or the flooring that you have? I mean, I know personally, like my home is 20 years old. I have linoleum. Like I still have linoleum in some of my house. So like what, like, I mean, like is there an expectation there for obviously the generation that is first time home buyers? Is there an expectation there as well for these houses that are older?
Yeah, I think. I mean, given that we're in the DMV, a lot of homes are older. Even outside of like the historic districts, which obviously have plenty of their own
Sure.
requirements, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
We're just kind of in an aging housing population. So a lot of these homes were built in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And I mean, if you find something that's past the 90s, you're in luck. If you're somewhere like Silver Spring or Bethesda. And what we're seeing is a lot of these finishes or a lot of the changes that come with usually flips or big home renovations are very attractive to new buyers or first-time home buyers, where if you know that housing has become less and less affordable, where you know that it is worth a lot more money than it was maybe in the 80s when the predecessor had bought it, then you want to make sure that this isn't something that's going to cost you a lot more money. You are a lot more conscientious of the fact that this might take a larger financial investment. And, especially if you are putting down a large down payment or you're working with all these different programs that allow you to get into somewhere where an issue is affordability, then you want to be sure that you at least have a couple years before you need to make these very large payments on things like a roof or a full mechanical HVAC unit or water heater, like we said. You want to make sure that at least in the first maybe 3 to 5 years that you're in there, that you're not spending a lot of money to get it up to where it should be. I mean, you want these things to be functional when you first buy it.
Sure. I mean, a lot of first-time home buyers, I mean, especially coming from me, I know we're using up pretty much every single penny that they have when they purchase their home. So are they even going to have the funds to do this kind of stuff?
Exactly. And so something that I usually recommend to my home buyers, even if they're not first time, is something like a home warranty or a home protection plan, so for both the minor and major appliances, because at the very least, I mean, it can be less than $1,000 to get the policy itself, and they'll cover the maintenance or the replacement of some of these things for a year.
Okay.
So in this case, even if I'm working with the seller, from the time that we list it to the time that it actually sells, the seller is covered, and then it transfers to the buyer for about a year. That can ease a lot of the anxiety around that first year of just really recuperating your savings. And, it helps a lot with older homes. But again, if you have a home that doesn't need that, where you aren't instilling the anxiety of, is this going to break? Is that going to break? When is the last time this was serviced? Has it been properly cleaned throughout the last 10, 15 years? Then, your house is going to fly off the shelf compared to somebody that, has a home that they just did not maintain properly.
So, okay, here's a random question for you. Let's say I come to you with my house. My house is 20 years old. And I'm coming to you, and as my seller's agent, I want you to sell my house for me. I have not replaced the HVAC unit. I haven't had to. I haven't had a need to do that. So what would you advise to me? Do I need to replace it? Do I not need to replace it? What should I do?
So when it comes, I mean, that's kind of why we use the term deferred maintenance. Like, if we know that the lifespan of a machine like that should be around 15 years and it's been 20 and it hasn't been replaced, reasonably, can we afford to do that? And a lot of people can't. There certainly are ways to budget for the maintenance on your home, but it's, when you don't take these courses or when you're perhaps not familiar with a lot of the maintenance work, it's very easy to push this aside and say, well, it still works.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the sale of it, that is one of the first questions that people ask is, how old is this unit? How old is that? When is the last time this was serviced or replaced? And, if we go into a much older home than 20 years and the only signature is from an inspector that came in 1979,
right.
It's a big concern for buyers. So in a case like that, maybe it makes more sense for us to get a home warranty so that at the very least in that first year, they know that that the whole property isn't going to come crashing down.
So I could offer, as a seller, I could offer a home warranty in place of. So basically, I say, well, I know that this unit is 20 years old, but it's still working. It's still in good condition. So I'm going to provide you with a home warranty as part of the sale.
Yeah, exactly. And it transfers you for a full year. So if at any point during that time it breaks down or you need any service, they will come and do it out, and you've already paid for that policy.
Okay.
So it costs them nothing out of pocket.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
like that.
it's a good way to sell properties when you may not have the money to completely replace the roof and the HVAC and the water heater.
Well, yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
what. Yeah, I mean you're telling me this, and I'm starting to think about. Oh my gosh, my house is 20 years old, and we literally just replaced all of our appliances, and that's just because I have. So it was a builder. It was a new build, so it's 20 years old, and my refrigerator just went out after 20 years. It just went out, so we decided to. It was a white refrigerator, and all my appliances were white.
Yeah.
So we decided to upgrade, if you will, to a stainless steel appliance package. So we actually bought all new appliances. So all of our appliances are new. But after that, I mean, like everything in that house, we're still running well. I mean, I've been very fortunate with what I've had to replace, if you will. I've never replaced a roof. Haven't had to replace the HVAC unit yet. So not that I'm trying to sell my house, but
Don't worry, you'll be
if
getting
I
a
were
letter
to-
from me.
But yeah, but when it comes time, I'm gonna have to. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to think about this stuff. So, but yeah. So okay, well, I think that those are two great points. So limited service brokerages, flat fee service brokerages for sellers. We're not saying we want to avoid them, but you need to be on the lookout and know what you're getting yourself into, right?
Yeah, understand that there isn't real representation with a lot of
There's
what they're
not real
offering.
representation, and if you are not a good negotiator, then you're really going to be doing a disservice to yourself.
I would say even if you are a good negotiator, if you don't understand the laws and the requirements, I mean, it doesn't matter how good
And
you
who
normally
does?
are. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, I mean,
You do because you're in this every day.
Yeah, it's one thing to understand the state law and look on, LegalZoom.com for
Right,
what,
right.
or Legal Shield for whatever the required forms are. But it's another thing to understand. Does the county require something in addition? Does
Yeah.
the city have different requirements? And often they do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here in Rockville right now. If we're in Rockville or Gaithersburg, they do have different requirements, and it's not especially well known.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's not even something that I even thought of as being on the loan side,
Yeah.
like knowing like what the specific requirements of just like a locality or township, things of that nature. Yeah. Wow. Well, okay. So those types of things we want to make sure at least our sellers know about. And then of course, deferred maintenance. So really this is about sellers today.
Yeah, mainly.
So, okay. All right. Well, hey, Kevin, thank you so much for stopping by today. I really appreciate it. Maybe next time we want to have you on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for
I want
sure.
to have you back because we talked about sellers today. Maybe next time we'll talk about buyers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Get both
because I'm
sides of
sure
the
you're
coin.
great with buyers as well.
I love buyers. Love educating. Teaching.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, well, thanks again for coming by today. And for our folks out there that are listening, thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast. We'll see you next week.